Now, from the air and on the ground, northern Gaza has been under sustained attack for the past 3 weeks by Israeli forces. Palestinians are calling it a siege, and thousands are evacuating. Today, at least 17 were killed after finding shelter in a school in central Gaza. It's thought 7 were children. Israeli forces said there were Hamas militants inside the building. As you might expect, the aftermath is distressing.
When the Israeli military deliberately conducts airstrikes on schools, it's because, they say, Hamas terrorists are hiding there among human shields. But this boy lost his sister in today's strike in al-Nusrat. They'd fled their home in North Gaza and were told the school here would be safer, a place to find shelter. We have learned her name was Malak, meaning angel. There is now a mass exodus of North Gaza. Israel tells them all, going south is safer. But we have heard multiple accounts that the IDF has forced them out, separating men from their families, blindfolded and bound. The stated aim is to find Hamas. Officially, Israel is not besieging North Gaza, and it is not implementing the infamous general's plan to push people out. But this looks a lot like it.
The government of Gaza...
Former General Giora Island is the architect of that plan, which he has already submitted to Benjamin Netanyahu's office.
They will have 2 choices, either to surrender or to die in starvation, which is fully consistent with the international humanitarian law.
With this plan, which is being considered by Prime Minister Netanyahu, there are people who are telling us that they are choosing not to leave.
It is their decision. I mean, I cannot force them to leave, but they have to understand the consequences.
The consequences would be that they either die in bombardment or starve to death.
This is their choice. That is what they decide.
Some here in Gaza say they don't want to leave because they don't trust Israel will ever let them go back to their homes. And there may be good reason for that concern. Just on the other side of the border, some Israelis are already plotting to move into the land that's being evacuated. The war in Gaza has now become a twisted kind of tourist attraction for these families of Israel's right-wing settlers. They pose for pictures. Family smiles with Gaza smouldering in the background. If you could give a message to people in Gaza now, what would you say to them? To the Arabs, she says, go away. The people holding this map are from the Nahala settler movement, a minority group, but vocal, and with friends in Netanyahu's coalition government. This man's wearing a t-shirt that says Gaza delende est, Gaza must be destroyed. This lady tells us she has a son currently serving there in the IDF. From here we can see the bombs coming down on the people of Gaza. What do you want for them?
Yes, but they brought it for themselves. I think they're all Hamas.
Your plan is to settle Gaza and take the land for Israel. What would happen to the people of Gaza?
They can live in Egypt. They have a lot of places.
Children are given bubbles to watch the bombings, and they get books teaching Israel's right to take more land, even from Lebanon. But first, they want Gaza. Do you want to expel the Palestinian people from Gaza?
All the world love them. They can bring ships and take them to their countries.
You don't want them. You want to settle Gaza, but you don't want Palestinians there. Inside Gaza, that future holds little fear when the present is so terrifying. Tonight, one of the last hospitals in the north reports they've been surrounded and cut off from aid. The intensive care unit here cares for burned children. The many scars from this war will be felt for generations to come.
Honestly, that never gets any less shocking. So let's go and talk about it with Peter in Tel Aviv. Peter, a very compelling, deeply sad, for many people probably quite angry-making piece there. I know we've asked this a million times, but is there any hope for peace talks at this point?
It often feels hopeless when we report on what's happening in Israel's multiple war fronts, but there is some news tonight, potentially some hope that negotiations between
intelligence agents and intelligence agencies, representatives from Mossad in Israel, the CIA in the United States, from the intelligence agency in Egypt, and also Qatar's Prime Minister will be having a meeting in Doha this weekend to discuss how they can talk about a ceasefire in Gaza and also to reopen negotiations for the return of Israel's hostages. Remember, some 101 Israeli hostages are still being held in Gaza. So it is in some respects talks about talks, but it's something. And it also has generated some waves because it comes on the same day that the chief of Israel's army announced that he expects there could be a sharp conclusion to the war in Lebanon on Israel's other front after days of heavy bombardment against Hezbollah. Now, we don't know if that means that, again, peace talks or some kind of a conclusion there, or that they have done so much already to dismantle Hezbollah that they think they could have decisive victory. But he's making this announcement walking through northern Gaza, a place that we've been reporting on just how horrendous and intense the fighting has been. So that demonstrates the confidence that he has as well that Hamas, he says, in the northern region could be close to collapse. So we're at a situation, I don't think that it will mean that Israel's going to back down on that retaliation against Iran. But after hearing about so much escalation, we at last have a glimmer of hope for the people who are suffering in Gaza and for the families of the hostages here in Israel, that the people who have the power to change this are finally going to be sitting around the same table again after 2 months without talks.
Peter, some slightly better news. Thank you very much indeed.